Stephen Colbert has no problem making a TV audience laugh, but his offstage life has been marked by deep pain and hardship. When Stephen Colbert was just 10 years old, a devastating tragedy changed his life forever. Colbert grew up in a big Catholic family. He had 10 siblings, but unfortunately, he didn't get to spend a lifetime with them. Two of Colbert's brothers who were closest to him in age, Peter and Paul, died tragically in 1974. They were on a flight to Charlotte, North Carolina with their father when their plane crashed about 2 miles from the runway. The aircraft exploded and only 10 people survived. Colbert's father and brothers were not among them. What made matters worse was that the subsequent investigation revealed the crash had been due to the pilots not paying proper attention in the foggy weather. Surviving passengers would later recall that they saw treetops passing by the windows ahead of the crash, but the pilot seemingly had no idea that the plane was flying that low. Colbert has spoken about the devastating aftermath of the crash that left him without a father and 2 brothers. He told CNN's Anderson Cooper,
"I become a different person. I was personally reshattered."
He recalled how his mother got through her grief by taking care of him, and he did the same for her. Colbert said,
"It became a very quiet house and very dark, and ordinary concerns of childhood suddenly kind of disappeared."
Having to contend with the loss of 3 family members at the age of 10 is unimaginable. It shouldn't come as much of a surprise that Colbert didn't fully deal with it at that young age. While attending prep school, the future comedian couldn't care less about performing academically. He wasn't a naughty or difficult kid, he simply exuded indifference, a coping mechanism to deal with the childhood trauma of losing 3 family members at once. Colbert told GQ in 2015, "There was no way to threaten me. It was like, what? What's that? Oh, okay. I might get a bad grade? Oh no, wouldn't want that." Thanks to growing up in a Catholic household, Colbert didn't engage in any debauchery to numb his pain. Instead, he buried his nose in books, completely ignoring any academic responsibility. He recalled, "I had so many books taken away from me. I read a book a day, spent all of my allowance on books. Every birthday, confirmation, Christmas, books please, stacks of books." It was when he went to college that his past really came back to haunt him. He told Oprah Winfrey in 2012,
"I didn't really feel the loss until I was in college. Then I was in bad shape."
He found solace in theater and performing and learned that it was a healthy way in which he could channel his pain into something useful. Colbert credits his faith for being able to live with the devastating loss of his father and brothers. Speaking to GQ in 2015, he said his mother set the example of how to pick up the pieces and move forward amid crippling loss. Colbert told the outlet, "By her example, I am not bitter. By her example, she was not. Broken, yes. Bitter, no." But as he got older and started to question what happened and why, Colbert experienced a crisis of faith. Speaking to Faith in Focus in 2018, Colbert recalled realizing that he'd become an atheist when he was 22.
I had lost my faith in God.
It was when a random stranger on the street handed him a small Bible on a day he was feeling especially anxious that Colbert found his way back to God. Inside the pages, he found a passage that spoke to him in that hour of need. He told the outlet,
"I was absolutely, immediately, lightened."
During his interview with GQ, Colbert said the one thing he learned from the loss of his father and brothers is acceptance. He explained, "Acceptance is not defeat. Acceptance is just awareness." There are plenty of celebrities who suffer from anxiety, and Colbert hasn't been shy to admit that he's one of them. During a candid 2018 interview with Rolling Stone, the comedian disclosed that there was a time in his life where his anxiety was so bad that he could barely function. It started shortly after Colbert married his wife, Evelyn McGee. The anxiety had nothing to do with his marriage and everything to do with his work. He shared, "I had a bit of a nervous breakdown after I got married, kind of panic attacks. My wife would go off to work and she'd come home because I worked at night, and I'd be walking around the couch and she's like, 'How was your day?' And I'd say, 'You're looking at it,' just tight circles around the couch." Colbert said anxiety was something he became familiar with at a young age because of the career choices he'd made, and that he used medication as a way to cope. Things got worse when he was doing a theater production for a full year. He'd created it with friends, who ended up moving away. The repetitiveness eventually got to him. Colbert explained, "I was in such a weird panic that I would never create anything new again." At one point, he even considered overindulging in alcohol, but he knew it would only make his problems worse. Things got better when he started working on new projects, with the comedian realizing he loved being in front of the cameras and that performing is vital to his well-being. In February 2012, Colbert had fans worried when he took a sudden hiatus from The Colbert Report. It didn't help that there was any real explanation for the comedian's sudden leave of absence. The network simply released a statement that read, "Due to unforeseen circumstances, the show will air repeat episodes." It turned out that Colbert had taken time off work to be with his mother, Lorna, who had been very ill. A little over a year later, Lorna died at age 92. Before her death, Colbert missed a week of work, and when he returned, he took a moment to pay tribute to his mother. He told the audience,
"When you watch the show, if you also like me, that's because of my mom."
The talk show host admitted that his mother's death left an empty space in his life he had no idea how to fill. He told his audience, "I know it may sound greedy to want more days with a person who lived so long, but the fact that my mother was 92 does not diminish it, only magnifies the enormity of the room whose door has now quietly shut." In December 2023, Colbert returned to The Late Show after an unexpected 3-week break. The comedian had let fans know on Threads that he was down for the count, thanks to a ruptured appendix. He wrote in the post, "Sorry to say that I have to cancel our shows this week. I'm sure you're thinking, turkey overdose Steve? Gravy boat capsize? Actually, I'm recovering from surgery for a ruptured appendix. Going forward, all emails to my appendix will be handled by my pancreas." While Colbert managed to make good fun of the situation, he spoke more candidly about how bad an experience it had really been upon his return to The Late Show a few weeks later. He admitted that he'd done a few shows while in immense pain, refusing to admit to himself that something was seriously wrong. He confessed that his pain was off the charts when he did the last show before eventually going to the hospital, which he only did because his wife insisted. Colbert had blood poisoning and had to undergo emergency surgery. He quipped,
"I'd like to thank my appendix, because you giving me blood poisoning helped me lose 14 pounds.
While Colbert made fun of the situation, he did admit at the beginning of his monologue that he'd been in a heap of trouble before he went to the hospital. He'd simply been unaware of the danger he was in. Appendicitis, if left untreated, can be life-threatening. Appendicitis isn't the only health issue Colbert has had to deal with. The comedian has also been diagnosed with a condition called benign paroxysmal positional vertigo, or BPPV. This condition makes the affected person feel dizzy when they move their head. It isn't particularly serious, but can lead to falls. In Colbert's case, it's likely he developed BPPV because of issues with his ears. He told The New Yorker in 2005 that he's deaf in his right ear because of a tumor that was removed when he was just a child. The comedian first experienced symptoms of BPPV ahead of the 2020 election. In typical Colbert fashion, he made light of his latest health issue during an interview with Vanity Fair, quipping, "It's almost entertaining until I forget, and then I go to stand up and then I just fall down. So I'm coming to you right now from a very weird angle." Colbert was given exercises to do to help ease the symptoms. BPPV can also resolve on its own, but the prescribed exercises can help ease symptoms faster. In 2024, Colbert suffered another devastating loss. His longtime assistant, Amy Cole, died after a battle with cancer at the age of 53. Colbert paid tribute to Cole on The Late Show after her death, and instead of ending the April 1st episode on a high note, the comedian was visibly upset as he ended the show with a simple,
"That's it for The Late Show. Good night."
Cole had worked with Colbert for 16 years, and at the 2025 Emmy Awards, it was clear The Late Show host still missed his colleague dearly. While making an acceptance speech after winning the award for Outstanding Talk Series, Colbert once again paid tribute to Cole. He said to the audience, "I want to dedicate to my mom and dad, my wife Evie's mom and dad, and a young woman who should be here tonight, Amy Cole." Colbert's late-night show has become such an integral part of his fans' daily lives that they likely can't imagine life without it. Unfortunately, that became a reality in July 2025, when CBS announced that The Late Show would come to an end in May 2026. The comedian announced the news to his audience a day later. While he tried to deliver it as gently as possible, it was clear that the live audience was less than pleased, loudly booing at the news. Colbert nodded and admitted,
"Yeah, I share your feelings."
There were whispers that CBS's parent company, Paramount, canceled Colbert's show amid pressure from the Trump administration. The president celebrated the cancellation of the show, but denied he had anything to do with it. Donald Trump penned on Truth Social, the reason he was fired was a pure lack of talent. While making an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live in September 2025, Colbert admitted the news hit him hard, but the hardest part had been to tell his staff. He initially wanted to put it off, but his wife convinced him to get it over with. Colbert told Kimmel,
"And we get into the building, I go up in the elevator, I walk through the offices. By the time I get to my offices, I have sweat through my shirt."
The comedian told his executive producer first and waited until after that evening show to share the news with the rest of his staff before relaying it to his audience.